Luigi's Mansion Any Percent is an incredibly broken speedrun, and back in January, I made a video all about it, documenting each new discovery, big and small, and everyone seemed to really enjoy it. From the initial Out of Bounds to King Boo discovery in March 2013, which single-handedly brought the run from an hour long down to under 10 minutes, up until the end of 2022, where after a decade of new strats, many small optimizations, and now the ability to one-cycle every boss in the run, the world record set at 7 minutes 38 seconds by Pablo, the game's best runner. Ever since that video came out at the start of 2023, the record has traded hands a few times. A 7:36 set by GlitchPhD on January 10th, then a 7:30 by Joven on January 15th, and then 5 months passed before Pablo reclaimed the record with a 7:27 on July 2nd. It's been a few months since then, so why don't we go check speedrun.com and see what the record is today. 5 minutes? What? How? Literally how? There's no way. Sub 8 was supposed to be the last minute barrier, and you're telling me that it wasn't it? Well, looks like I should probably explain what happened. But first, let's briefly go over the route up until this drastic improvement. The speedrun begins upon selecting a new hidden mansion file, a harder difficulty unlocked after clearing the game for the first time, which also has faster poltergust suction. You would then clear Area 1 as intended by clearing out rooms, collecting keys, and defeating 2 portrait ghosts on the way to the area's boss, Chauncey. Defeating Chauncey spawns in a treasure chest that contains the key to Area 2, so this chest is very important as it allows us to progress deeper into the mansion. We can accomplish that in the most obvious fashion, by wedging Luigi behind the chest and pulling out the vacuum briefly to clip out of bounds. We are now in an area between floors 1 and 2, known as floor 1.5. You would then switch to sidestep mode to perform a glitch known as a skew. By bumping into bats in a specific manner while you hold the C-stick in certain directions, you can skew Luigi's geometry enough to clip past walls. At a specific corner, we can sink down into the basement using a technique known as Game Boy Horror clipping, which allows you to clip up or down when pulling out the Game Boy Horror camera while skewed. Runners would accomplish this clip down to the path to the secret altar by backing into the corner with the correct skew in sidestep mode, pause and switch back to standard controls, hold upright on the control stick, unpause, and pull out the camera a frame later. Once out of bounds in the basement, you'd walk a paper-thin line to the final boss fight against King Boo and defeat him. This has been the Any Percent route since March 2013. While the run has changed in many aspects, such as faster out of bounds navigation and new strats against Chauncey and King Boo to beat them in one cycle, the route otherwise hasn't changed in 10 years. You'd still have to clear Area 1 as normal, as there was no way out of bounds until you defeat Chauncey and that chest spawns. It was the ultimate bottleneck. But then, in December 2022, some new discoveries led to some promising ideas. In December 2022, some members of the Luigi's Mansion speedrunning community, including Saria100, MiniMini352, GlitchPhD, and Snap, began to experiment with inbound skewing. Originally thought to be an out-of-bounds exclusive glitch, many new applications of inbound skewing were tested, including some using mice in the hallways. This opened up a lot of possibilities for new out-of-bounds clips, including the potential to skip Chauncey. Curious, GlitchPhD tested out skewing off of the mice in the Area 1 hallway, and after testing multiple different angles, he found a way out of Area 1. By getting a precise forward skew off of a mouse, and the Game Boy Horror clipping in the corner between the foyer and the study, you could clip down into the dining room below in Area 2. From here, the discoveries get kind of crazy, and so did the GlitchDoctor's hypothesis. He had the idea of switching from playing on the Japanese version to the PAL version. In PAL, the hidden mansion is very different, including the ghost spawns. For example, the kitchen, the room accessible from the dining room, had mice in the PAL hidden mansion. These could be used to skew back into the Area 2 hallway, where there are, you guessed it, more mice. Oh, and some conveniently placed exploder ghosts. Those are important for getting back in bounds from the kitchen via damage boosting. From there, you could get another precise skew to Game Boy Horror Clip past the door to Area 3, outside to the courtyard. At this point, you may be wondering why this route is so radically different. Why the courtyard? Why not just skew from the Area 1 hallway down the floor 1.5? Well, the problem with the Area 1 hallways is that getting to floor 1.5 just wasn't a possible outcome. Because Game Boy Horror Clipping only allows you to clip up or down, the most you could do was clip down to Area 2 on the floor below. So the next best thing to do from Area 2 is to reach the courtyard instead. The courtyard is notable because of this well. This is where in a normal playthrough, you'd fall down the well, and here, you can get a peek into the secret altar behind a statue where King Boo is hiding. Normally, you can't get into the altar and trigger the final boss fight, but skews are not normal. They allow for wall clips, and now that inbound skews were a thing, people were willing to test all possibilities. One such person was someone I mentioned earlier, Mini352. Using hacked values, Mini discovered that with the correct skew, you could clip into the secret altar and fight King Boo. The question was, where would you get this skew? Well, thanks again to our editor and friend GlitchPhD, along with Luigi's Mansion tasser, Neverdoors, you can get one off of these tiny green ghosts flying around, by luring them near the well and getting a precise skew while falling into the well. If successful, Luigi's geometry should be so skewed that walking against the side of the tunnel avoids the trigger for the cutscene when Luigi peeks in. This allows for the skew to be retained and for the clip to work. Shortly after, Neverdoors would release a low optimization tool-assisted demonstration, or LOTAD for short, of the hypothetical PAL route. And it was really fast. 5 minutes 25 seconds to be exact when converted to RTA timing. Skipping all but 3 rooms in Area 1, this LOTAD blew both the current world record and the newly published tasks out of the water. And thus, speedrunners would begin to run any percent on the PAL version, nail the numerous skews and clips, and beat Luigi's Mansion in 5 minutes. Not. These skews, as I mentioned previously, are incredibly precise, especially that one in the well, and you'd be expected to hit that after a sequence of already tight skews? It's just unreasonable. As such, no one really seemed interested in running any percent on PAL. The LOTAD still served as an entertaining watch, but ultimately, humans were not up to replicating that route in real time. For Chauncey Skip to be fully realized, it would need a completely new find. There was an idea to clip out of bounds and open one of these doors in the Area 1 hallway. If you could theoretically open one of these doors after clipping in, Luigi could enter floor 1.5. This had been tested using cheats, but without a way to clip in such a position, you could not enter floor 1.5 without fighting Chauncey. The Game Boy Horror clips could only clip you up or down, not left or right. This is because when you pull out the Game Boy Horror, it takes a while for Luigi's angle to snap back into an upright position. So let's say you get an extreme forward skew off of a mouse in the Area 1 hallway. If you were to use a clipping method in the bottom right corner similar to the one used to reach the basement, you could clip next to a door, but because Luigi's angle takes a while to snap back, you wouldn't be able to open the door. One detail I mentioned previously with the basement clip was that you would buffer Luigi turning with the control stick after pausing and switching back to standard mode. Just the control stick, which controls Luigi's movement. However, Mini had the idea to try buffering a C-stick input as well, as that controlled Luigi's facing angle with the flashlight and vacuum. When he played around with a C-stick during a Game Boy Horror clip, Mini did the impossible. He clipped horizontally. By performing that Game Boy Horror clip in the corner of the Area 1 hallway, but instead of just buffering a right input on the control stick, Mini also buffered a C-stick up input, and Luigi's angle snapped instantly. At this point, Mini realized he had struck gold, and began to investigate the possibility of an earlier clip down to the Area 2 hallway. He wondered if it would be possible to open the nearby door while falling after the clip. With the assistance of Saria, Chill Wizard, and Neverdoors, Minnie did just that. Except instead of falling down to the Area 2 hallway, he ended up in floor 1.5. Minnie had just blown any percent wide open with the category's largest time save in 10 years. By using this new application of the Game Boy horror clip, you could press X to put away the camera soon after clipping, and then press A to open the door after. And voila, floor 1.5 without having to fight Chauncey or any of the portrait ghosts before him. There was one problem though. After Luigi goes through the door, he has a chance of being spooked by a ceiling ghost below before he's fully actionable. Now, generally when navigating floor 1.5, you'd turn to shine the flashlight in certain directions into the hallway below to prevent any ghosts from spawning, as they can scare Luigi, causing him to fall inbounds to floor 1. But since Luigi can't shine his flashlight behind him right after exiting the door, he can get spooked right away, and it seems there's nothing you can do. Thankfully, there's a workaround. By pressing X as soon as the door closes, you will pull out the Game Boy horror camera, which prevents Luigi from getting scared when nearby ghosts appear. From here, you would complete an any percent run as usual from this point onwards. This route sounded much more reasonable than the theoretical PAL one. So realistic in fact, that on October 6, Minnie would secretly lower the world record using this new skip down to 7 minutes 3 seconds. At this point, it was clear that if a rough unoptimized run of this route could nearly break the 7-minute barrier, any percent was about to enter an entirely new and unexpected era. Meanwhile, Neverdoors went to revise the any percent tasks, and on October 12, 2023, the Luigi's Mansion speedrun community was in for a real surprise. That evening, the task premiered on Neverdoors' Twitch stream, clocking in at 4 minutes 41 seconds with RTA timing. Afterwards, Minnie unhoarded his new record, followed by a tutorial on how to perform the new clip, but not before lowering his time down to a 6:07, just barely missing sub 6 just an hour after the task premiered. Mere hours later, Red, the man responsible for discovering One Cycle King Boo, was the first person other than Minnie to set a record with Chauncey skip, 6:04. Less than 24 hours after, Minnie clapped back with a 5:48. And then Joven absolutely smashed Minnie's run to the ground with a 5:14. Just casually shaving 2 minutes off of his former record with a pretty clean run execution-wise. Even nailing the very difficult Task 1 cycle on King Boo at the end. As of the making of this video, 5:14 remains the current record. Despite any percent transforming into the Wild West once again, this category is anything but free. Any percent, now with a very precise skew clip, along with all the hard out of bounds movement and King Boo strats, has made it the hardest category to compete at the highest level of play. A god run of the category would clock in below 5 minutes, and with just 15 seconds to go, any of the top runners like Joven, Pablo, Minnie, or GlitchPhD could get it any day. If they're motivated enough, that is. After a sub 5, the category would realistically only have a few seconds left to shave off before it becomes nearly unbeatable with current strats. Now, I know that in the previous Luigi's Mansion video, I thought that sub 8 minutes would be the final milestone for any percent, only to be so wrong. But this time, I genuinely do not see how any percent could possibly fall below 4 minutes. A sideways clip out of the anteroom on the PAL version may have some hidden potential for a faster route, although it doesn't seem to be particularly useful. At least for now. It seems that now that a decade has passed since the origins of King Boo Early, we've finally reached the limits of this category. But hey, you never know. This game always ends up finding a way to surprise me. Special thanks to MiniMini352 and GlitchPhD for reviewing my research, and GlitchPhD again for editing this video. Hope you all enjoyed, subscribe for more, and remember to shoot for the moon.